the George C. Marshall International Center, the town of Leesburg in Loudoun County, I welcome you all to our 21st annual Veterans Day celebration here on the grounds of beautiful Dodona Manor. Please stand. You're already standing. As we post the colors by VFW Post 1177 of Loudoun County. Color Guard. Post
Color Guard. Forward. March. Left. 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 Right. Left. 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 Mark time. March. Color Guard. Halt. Left. Face. Present. Arms.
Thank you to VFW Post 1177, the finest VFW post in the nation, and thank you musicians for that great rendition of the national anthem. Reverend Chad Martin of St. James Episcopal Church will now deliver the invocation.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we thank you for bringing us safely together on this day as we recognize and honor all those who have faithfully served our country. We thank you for the selfless sacrifice of these veterans and of their families. Help us to remember them, to pray for them, and to care for them, and grant them a sense of your abiding presence and peace wherever they may be. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Please be seated. And please join me in welcoming Tom Greenspan, Chairman of the Board of Directors of the George C. Marshall International Center.
Thank you, Major Quicken. To open up this morning, I'd like to begin by recognizing several distinguished guests that are with us today. Our keynote speaker, Mr. Blake Hall, Congressman Suhas Subramanian, Virginia State Senator Russa Perry, Virginia State Senator Kanan Srinivasan, Virginia State Delegate Marty Martinez, Mayor of the town of Leesburg, Mayor Kelly Burke, Board of Supervisor Vice Chair and the Ashburn District Representative Mike Turner. Thank you, Mike. Board of Supervisor for the Leesburg District and a great friend to Dodona Manor, Kristen Umstadt. Board of Supervisor for the Little River District, Laura Ticroni. Thank you for being here. Sheriff Mike Chapman. Reverend Chad Martin from St. James Episcopal Church. Several current and past board members of the George C. Marshall International Center are with us here today, and I'd like to take a moment to say thank you to them and welcome them here today. Andrew Boardman, Brian Cullen, Daryl Deakey, past chairs, Steve Chapin, and the Honorable Joe May. Thank you for being here today. Now please join me in a warm welcome for Mayor Kelly Burke to introduce our other honored guests. Mayor Burke.
Yeah, I'm a little confused because I think you introduced them all. But I will say, my name is Kelly Burke and I am the mayor here in Leesburg, and I want to welcome you all being here today. I often, when I come to this, and I have come for many, many years now, I want to thank the George Marshall staff and board for putting this on every year. I'd like to regale everybody with all of my family's history within the military. I have a father that was in the Navy, and a husband that was in the Army, and a brother that was a Marine, and a nephew that was Coast Guard, and a niece that was Air Force, and various other relatives that were and are still in the military service. And I understand the sacrifice that was made by those people and that is continuing to be made. And I want to thank all of you that are here who are involved in the services. If you wouldn't mind standing up so that we could recognize you and give you applause. Anybody that is former military or presently in the military, would you mind standing at this point? Thank you for your service, and thank you very much for being here, and the guests that are here, thank you for coming out today on this very cold day. Thank you all very much, and please enjoy your celebration today. We have a lot to be thankful for, and many of the reasons are here in this room. So thank you all.
Thank you, Mayor Burke. Hands are just a bit numb. Hope yours aren't. Glorious day today. The George C. Marshall International Center is dedicated to inspiring leadership, and our work is driven by the example set by our namesake, General George C. Marshall, who lived right here in Leesburg at Dodona Manor during some of the most pivotal years in our nation's history, throughout World War II, and throughout the development of the Marshall Plan and the reconstruction of war-torn Europe in the post-war years. This year, we have been marking the 80th anniversary of the final months of World War II. That conflict was unprecedented in its scale and its devastation, especially across Europe. 80 years ago, while America was welcoming all of the GIs back home, leaders like George Marshall were already turning their attention to securing the peace after working so hard to win the war. The homecoming of the greatest generation was a major moment in American history. Millions of returning service members were able to attend college, buy homes, and secure employment thanks to programs like the GI Bill. While not all were treated equally, those events prompted the full desegregation of the armed services in 1948 and the civil rights movement in the 1960s. But this massive post-war investment drove economic growth and made our country the envy of the world. Today, we once again step up to salute the veterans of more recent conflicts and continue to welcome home all who have served our nation. This work is never done, of course, and Veterans Day is a special day, an annual reminder that we all owe a debt to the men and women who have secured our freedom and that we will never forget them. Our veterans continue to contribute to our country, starting small businesses, leading companies, and creating new solutions to challenges that we all face. No one embodies these qualities better than today's guest speaker, Mr. Blake Hall. Blake is the founder and CEO of ID.me, the next generation digital identity platform that is simplifying how individuals prove and securely share their identity online. Under Blake's leadership, ID.me became the first company in the United States to earn federal accreditation to bind a legal identity to a digital login. Government agencies, healthcare organizations, financial institutions, and retailers use ID.me to verify the identity of customers. Many of you are no doubt familiar with the platform and use it to both secure your personal information and access services that you need. In fact, IDME's technology now supports more than 156 million users in 21 federal agencies, 50 state agencies, and over 70 healthcare organizations with more than 600 consumer brands. More importantly, IDME serves the Department of Veterans Affairs and USAA, which itself serves the veteran community. Prior to founding IDME, Blake was an Army Ranger who fought in Iraq on over 450 combat patrols. Without sustaining casualties and within his platoon or attachments. He was awarded the Bronze Star twice, including one with the V device for heroism in combat earned while stopping an Al-Qaeda assault on a combat support hospital in Mosul, Iraq. Blake holds a Bachelor of Science, magna cum laude from Vanderbilt University. He's having a pretty good year on the football gridiron, I would say. And an MBA from Harvard Business School. Blake is an American hero. We're fortunate to have him with us here today. He's also a great American success story, which I know that you'll all find inspiring. I'm excited and honored to hear from him today. Blake, the microphone is yours.
Good morning. Thank you, Tom, for that kind introduction and for your leadership at the George C. Marshall International Center. It's also an honor to join Congressman Souromanian, Senator Perry, Mayor Burke, and all of our distinguished guests. And most of all, to the veterans, service members, families, and neighbors gathered here, thank you for joining us here on this Veterans Day. It's an honor to be with you at Dodona Manor, where General Marshall's example reminds us that service to country doesn't end when the uniform comes off. This day also reminds me a little bit of my time in the infantry. I was a winter ranger, and the infantryman's prayer is, may it be cold or wet, but please, Lord, not both. And so we're doing okay, because we are not wet. I have been in these situations when it's wet, and it is not fun. Today, Veterans Day, is a day to honor all who have served in defense of our great nation, and to honor the commitment it takes to sustain the founding principle of America, that timeless assertion. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What an amazing statement for what represents us as a nation. Americans are a free people, a symbol of what is possible as a country when hard work and creativity are celebrated and rewarded. A rare society in human history where you can live your life as you see fit, as long as you don't hurt anyone else. For that reason, America is a light in the world to all people. Yet defending our way of life requires hard work, selflessness, and sacrifice, all of the qualities that General Marshall embodied. Nearly 20 years ago, on October 12, 2006, I led a small group of scouts and snipers into fierce combat. We were in Mosul, Iraq, a city in Iraq's north with a population of about 2 million people. The sun hung low on the western horizon. It was our second combat patrol of the day. We were tired. As we moved past the combat support hospital towards the Tigris River, large explosions burst through the air. Boom, 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 boom. After another 30 seconds, another barrage of shells landed on the base. The shells were close enough I could watch my uniform ripple as the percussion went through my body. And I knew that the nurses, doctors, and patients at that hospital, including Iraqi civilians and kids, were dying and suffering. I processed the situation. I had 24 men with me. We were the only American unit outside the wire in the city. I'm also the son of a field artilleryman and a third-generation soldier. So I did some quick math on the shells hitting the base and thought I knew the location of the mortars based on where they were impacting. Later, my men would tell me they thought I was full of you-know-what when I told them I thought I knew where the mortars were. A car bomb exploded behind us at the entrance to the base as we moved towards the Tigris, and fighters filled the alley to storm the gates. As we crossed the river, I had a commanding view of the city and could see that every American base and police station was under attack across Mosul. Red and green tracers zipped in lines and then skyrocketed up into the sky. As we closed on the field, I had picked out on my map a radio transmission from headquarters using counter-battery radar confirmed the location of the mortars. By that time, we were already deploying to neutralize them. I led with my snipers. We destroyed the tubes. The Al-Qaeda fighters had fired less than a third of their rounds. Then we fought for 3 hours in different directions, surrounded without close air support or quick reaction forces to help us. And by the grace of God, who I'm grateful for every single day, we took no casualties, which I still think is a miracle, having seen what was going on that day. I will never forget that night. We stayed up until 3 a.m. in the morning celebrating. A first sergeant from a different company finally had to come and tell us to be quiet. At that moment, none of us had to question our purpose in the world. We had saved lives. We were also true brothers. We now knew that each of us would risk our own lives to protect each other. The nurses were so grateful. They sent us packages every week until we left Mosul a few months later to head down to Baghdad. 20 months later, I was a 26-year-old in Cambridge, Massachusetts, about to begin my first semester at Harvard Business School. Inside, I was spinning. I had witnessed terrible things. Many of my friends had died, and I was alone. Psychologically, it felt like I had gone through a time warp. Most people don't have to confront their own mortality and the loss of close friends on a daily basis until their 70s and 80s. Yet that was my daily experience in combat. Then I got on a plane, came home, left the military, and my biggest problem was trying to figure out which bar we would go to on a Friday night. It felt bizarre. My men also struggled. One of my snipers, Hendo, who was particularly brave, struggled with the aftermath of war. This soldier was a lion in combat. I had seen him in firefights stand up, laugh, point, and then engage enemy positions while he was still standing. This while he was next to a captain from the battalion staff who had decided to accompany us on a patrol that day, whose face was white as a sheet and trying to get low under a small wall on the edge of the roof of our position. The comparison between my sniper and the staff officer was striking. War rewired all of us. The adrenaline tied to the fight-or-flight response that allowed us to adapt and thrive in combat created significant problems when readjusting to civilian life. Hendo struggled to adjust when we came home. He had a short attention span and would walk out of the movies with his friends after just a few minutes. When he admitted he needed help to his new chain of command, they took his weapon and his identity away from him. He sought me out for counsel and told me bluntly, "I feel like a piece of you-know-what." At that moment, I realized that coming home wasn't the end, but rather a recommissioning to a life of service. When General Marshall left uniformed service, he didn't retire from duty, he simply changed the mission. He rebuilt Europe, restored trust, and proved that character forged in war could be channeled toward peace. For Hendo, I let him know that it took courage to admit that he needed help. That his admission was an act of bravery. That even though the military discouraged showing weakness to prepare men for combat, that after the fight, vulnerability is exactly what is needed to recover from the trauma of war. I also reminded him that he was an absolute stud in a firefight when the chips were down. That all of his brothers would want him in their fighting position if it came to that again. I could see on his face that was all he needed, was affirmation. Veterans are drawn to serving causes that are larger than themselves. When we leave the military, we face challenges of reintegration, finding belonging, and rediscovering meaning. Beyond caring for my men, I found my own purpose after service in two distinct ways. First, I developed an extraordinary bond with my Iraqi interpreter, Roy, during my combat tour to Iraq. He was like my little brother. Tragically, he was killed in a house bomb along with the sniper section of the platoon that had replaced us. But I had made him a promise. One of my snipers told me I would forget that promise I made to him after I came home. And like General Marshall's response to his brother, who doubted to his mother that he would succeed when he went to VMI, that just strengthened my resolve to fulfill my promise to him. I found his mom in Baghdad through a story I wrote for the Washington Post, where Carlos Lozada gave me 3,000 words to eulogize him. After another Washington Post article, several appearances in Public Radio International, and with the help of Representative Ann Esue, I brought his family, his mom, dad, brother, and sister to the United States just before ISIS swept across Iraq. They live in Texas today, and they're all thriving. I'm part of their family.
What?
Second, I started IDMe. Though I had an offer to go to McKinsey & Company coming out of graduate school, I did not feel the same sense of mission I felt when serving in the military community. Veterans suffer from nearly twice the rate of identity theft as the typical American. Over $200 million of combat pay for service members who'd been stop-lost, which include about a third of my platoon, went unclaimed because DoD couldn't get the word out to veterans that all they had to do was fill out a form and get an average benefit of $6,000 to $8,000. I thought that was terrible. And despite all the goodwill for brands and nonprofits to support veterans, the requirement to prove identity in person often meant that you had to show your social security number on your DD-214 to a stranger to get a free appetizer at a restaurant. And I thought you shouldn't trade your social for a fried vegetable like a bloomin' onion out the Outback. That's a bad trade. Figured I could do something about that. Started IDMe. We quickly adopted the goal of no identity left behind, based on the same tenet of camaraderie that inspired Rogers Rangers to adopt it. We want to include everyone in the digital economy, particularly America's veterans. I'll share a brief anecdote that gets at our why as a company and our purpose. When I left the military, veterans had to go to the VA in person to prove their identity to upgrade their login. For those of us who live in America, this was inconvenient, especially if you lived in a rural part of the country. But if you lived overseas, it was impossible, because the VA doesn't have facilities in many international countries. So in 2016, we brought digital login identity verification to VA for the first time, but I saw that the federal standards effectively precluded individuals who didn't have credit history from proving who they were on a website. So I went down to the Department of Commerce and had a conversation with them about that. And to their credit, they listened, and they said, we will allow you to create a different pathway using video chat where you virtualize the same experience you would have going down to a bank to open up your bank account. One of the first veterans to go through this new process in 2018 was an 81-year-old veteran. He lived in Japan, in Tokyo. He was caring for his wife who had Alzheimer's. He hadn't been able to access his VA benefits in years. And at the end of that video chat session, when we verified him and he realized he was going to get access to them, he started to cry. And that's why we do what we do. Today we have more than 150 million users, and we verified the identities of 80 million Americans to the federal standards. But of those, over 13 million have gone through that video chat verification channel that serves our homeless communities, our unbanked, our underbanked, tribal communities, and many others. The stories are often deeply emotional. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "It is one of the most beautiful compensations of life that no man can sincerely try to help another without helping himself." That has certainly been true in my life. The great gift that combat gave me has been to reshape my idea of risk. Don't take any day for granted. Each one is precious. An opportunity to make a positive difference in someone's life. Service is not a chapter of life, it's a calling that carries forward. Every act of community, mentorship, and compassion writes the next verse of America's story. Today, there are amazing veteran service organizations like Team Rubicon, where veterans can use their military training while responding to victims of natural disasters. In addition to long-standing organizations like the American Legion and the Veterans of Foreign Wars, two terrific communities of which I am honored to be a member of both. My ask to the broader community is to proactively help veterans to reintegrate into society. Actions, not words. Reach out to them, listen to them, and guide them. There are many different ways that you can serve. Each one of you has a unique set of skills and competencies that is waiting to be poured into someone else, where you can help reintegrate them and give them purpose and control over their life. I was fortunate enough to have a mentor, Kelly Purdue, who'd run 4 venture-backed technology companies, who took me under his wing. Because I can assure you that even though Harvard Business School is a storied institution, starting a business versus learning about it is as different as walking a combat patrol is from learning about it in some classroom. They are completely different animals. And without Kelly Purdue to mentor me, I would not be an entrepreneur today. So whether you are a farmer, a writer, a small business owner, there are so many ways to serve, and keep that starfish story in mind. You're not going to be able to touch all 18 or 19 million veterans, but you can certainly impact 1. You might be able to impact 2 or even 3. And for those individuals together, it will make all the difference. You will find that in return, your investment will be repaid many times over. As General Marshall said, it is the spirit which we bring to the fight that decides the issue. Society is best built by those who know the cost of conflict. Our oath does not expire. The flag we veterans saluted still represents the promise of a more perfect union. Together, we can make America a better home for our communities and our children through a resolute commitment to our ideals. More than ever, we need unity. Thank you. And to the veterans, welcome home.
Forgot to. Well, thank you, Michelle, for those most inspirational words and reminding me why I didn't want to go to Ranger School. Since Mayor Burke has just asked me that she forgot to recognize the town council members who are here. So I will recognize Zach Cummings, I see here, and Neil Steinberg. Did I miss any? Is Nick here? Nick's here too. Welcome. Those are great words. And now, under our favorite part of the show, the musicians will now play the Armed Forces Medley, and we're going to invite members of the Armed Forces and their families, or former members, to stand when your service anthem is performed, remembering, of course, that the Army comes first.
For spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesty, above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on me, and crowned my good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea. patriot's dream that sees beyond the year. Thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by human tears. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
You guys know the words, you can sing